welcome to the Natural Animal Podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Hatton. I'm an animal naturopath and big animal lover. Here on the show, we share thoughts and ideas about the nature of animals, their preferences, their behaviours, their ways of being, to engender a greater understanding, respect, compassion and love for all animals, companion, farm and wild. I hope you enjoy this week's episode. It's the last one of season 2, and I've got a little special one for you. And as always, this episode is brought to you by Frontier Pets, creators of nutritionally superior pet food, inspired by traditional whole food diets with a modern and ethical approach. Stay tuned for a special podcast listener discount. Okay, so today what I thought I would do for the last episode of season 2 would be to share the answers that all of the guests that I've had so far throughout the podcast, throughout seasons 1 and 2, share their answers to that question that I asked them at the end. If there was one thing you could change about the human-animal relationship, what would that be? And I thought this was a fitting one for, we've come through 2 seasons and I've had about 9 or 10 guests on the show. And at the end, I'm going to provide that answer, my answer to that question, because I haven't asked myself that question. But I thought, given the time of year also, as we're coming to the end of 2024, that this would be a nice, heartwarming episode to really get you to just feel into the beauty and the magic of animals, and for you to perhaps have a think about what is the one thing that you would change about the human-animal relationship, if anything. And I can't continue without saying that I hope you had a magical Christmas, if you in fact celebrate Christmas. By the time this airs, we would have had Christmas already. We would have filled up our bellies with all the delicious Christmas goodies, and maybe you spent time with your family, your human family, or maybe you spent time with your friends' family, or maybe you spent it alone with your beautiful animal companions. Whatever you did, if you celebrated, I give you a belated Merry Christmas, but more so for those of you, to being fully inclusive of everyone, wishing you a beautifully nourishing and joyous festive season. I would have spent the day in Brisbane with my family. I wonder how my belly will feel when this actually goes to air. We always have a traditional, our heritage is English, so we always have a traditional English Christmas dinner, even though we are living in hot Queensland, Australia. So we still have the full-on roast. They have their roast, whatever meat it is, and me, I make a vegan thing. My plan for this year, it'd be interesting if I actually make this, is a kind of like, I can't even remember what it is, but it's got like pumpkin and legumes and not legumes, pumpkin and nuts and smoked tofu. Anyway, it's going to be like a kind of like a Wellington thing, but instead of pastry, using a smoked tofu. And then we have our roast vegetables, roast potatoes, carrots. We always have green beans. And then dessert, I've got myself a vegan Christmas pudding. I didn't make it. I did buy it. The rest of the family will be having a homemade one. Mum, when she lived with us in Australia, she's back in England, she used to always make the Christmas pudding. She made it vegan, so everyone just had to suck that up. But now that she's in England, she's not making the Christmas pudding, so I haven't got around. I'm not organised enough to think in June, oh my gosh, I must make my Christmas pudding for this year because it does need that time for all the flavors to infuse to make it really amazing. But we have like Christmas pudding, mince pies. They also have, I think they also have like trifle and there's choc ripple cake, and there's just so much food and there's cocktails, which I just have sips because I don't generally don't drink alcohol. Christmas Day and birthday is my exception. I have a little bit. So hopefully I won't be feeling too bad and this at this point in time when you're actually listening to this episode. But yeah, I really just wanted to acknowledge that it is the festive season. Hopefully you're having festive times, but also honoring what you need at this time during this period. For me, it's deep rest. It's always deep rest and restoration and nurturing and nourishing as it comes to the end of the year because it's always been busy big years, lots of energy out, and so for this kind of time of year for me it's about bringing the energy within, doing a lot of meditation, spending a lot of time in nature, spending a lot of time with my cats, of course, catching up with friends and family, and just reading, watching TV, just really like chilling and doing whatever feels good and nourishing. That's kind of like my recipe for the festive season. What's your recipe? What helps you to enjoy this time of year? And how do you share it with your animals? So, on that note, I want to get into the topic of today. I'm really excited as I was starting to like pull all the little excerpts together from each of the guest episodes. I haven't listened to them all. I'm going to actually listen to them as I go through and record my little bits in between so that I can really experience them in the present and give you that honest, genuine my take, or whatever else I want to add in the prelude and after I've shared each guest's answer that question. So let's get into the first one. Now, the first guest for season one, um, way back when in April, April 2024. 3rd of April 2024, this episode was published. And this was a guest conversation with a dear, 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 dear friend of mine. I mean, a lot of the guests are my friends. I'm so lucky and privileged to have so many animal loving friends that are doing really important work to help all the animals, right? So Shatha was my very first guest in my very first season of the podcast. And the topic of that show, or the title of that show, was Serving Animals and Bearing Witness. And Shatha is the legal counsel for Animals Australia. I've known her for a very, very long time. Met her when I was working for Voiceless, the Animal Protection Institute in Sydney, Australia. And Shatha is responsible. Not only is she their legal counsel, she does all the legal cases and things. She's also their lead investigator into live exports. So she travels to the Middle East several times throughout the year to gather footage around what is happening or how these animals are being treated. And she doesn't just do it for Animals Australia. They have partnerships with other animal organizations. And so she gathers footage for those organizations, like for the animals, because animals are going through the Middle East and to the Middle East from all over the world. So all of the animal protection organizations that have a focus on live export. She's also gathering footage for those countries' animals. So in that episode, she spoke a lot about obviously her work and how that work is undertaken, how she manages to do that really emotionally challenging work. So we talk a lot about spirituality in that episode too, because that's one of her guiding forces that allows her to show up every day and be present and bear witness and in that way serve animals. So I'm excited to share her answer to the question, if there was one thing you could change about the human animal relationship, what would that be?
That we could coexist in absolute harmony and respect and love. Absolutely. And that we can see each other for who we really are. Yeah.
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 I love that.
Yeah. And
Mm.
that sheep could just be celebrated for being sheep.
Oh,
And they're just
love
sheep.
that. Oh, yes,
They're just sheep being sheep. How wonderful.
totally. Just let them be, let them be. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Short and sweet from the Shatha, but so perfect. Coexistence, like learning how to coexist with all beings, with all species. It's not about humans are better than, we are all equal. And so it's about how do we exist together in this world, honoring and respecting each other's needs and desires, human animal and non human animal, and being in love, just being in love, right? Seeing each other for all of the innate, inherent, individual value that we all bring to this world, right? And sheep, right? Like celebrating sheep. Of course, let's celebrate sheep. Let's celebrate all of the animals. Next, my next guest in season one was Mark Beckoff. And the title of that show was called Why Animals Matter, Exploring Sentience. That episode went live on the 17th of April 2024. It was episode 5. And Mark, I also knew Mark from my voiceless days. And the reason why invited Mike on the show is because he is a renowned expert on animal behavior and animal emotions. And so we explored that in this episode. We explored the evolution of behavior, of sentience, emotions, and cognitive skills. We spoke about animal protection, compassionate conservation, biodiversity of sentience. We spoke about the use of animal models in medical research and alternatives to using animals in research. We spoke a lot about science and the laws and how animals are defined in those industries, the emotional lives of animals, allowing animals to express their natural behaviors, and what can happen when we don't allow them to do that. Dog ancestry, are dogs the same as wolves? Dog behaviors, cat behaviors, we debunked the myth that cats aren't social. We spoke about so much. It was such a really deep and rich conversation, as they all are, right? I mean, come on. I've loved every single guest conversation that I've had on the show. So let's have a listen to Mark's answer to what he would change about the human animal relationship.
Um, Less control and less domination by humans.
Yeah.
More, or the other side of that coin is giving animals more freedom to be who they are as individuals and as a member of a given species.
Yeah, love that. Perfect. Another short and sweet answer, and similar in a certain respect to Shatha's answer. Mark's answer: less control, less domination by humans, and giving the animals freedom to express who they are as an individual and as a member of their species, right? Like, so potent. And also thinking about how do we do that with our companion animals, honoring who they are as an individual. They are not just our companions. They're not just pets. They're not forms of entertainment or satisfaction. I mean, they can be those things. They are those things as well. They can be very entertaining and so amazing to share our lives with, but they also have their own journeys, their own individual preferences, and it's acknowledging who they are by themselves and also who they are within the feline species, who they are within the canine species, who they are in the animal world. And so that is a beautiful, beautiful thing to put out into the world about let's change that. Let's make that the norm. Next, we're going to look at the next episode, the next guest, which was episode 7, which went to air on the 1st of May 2024. And that was another friend of mine, surprise, surprise, Jacqueline Lee. She is a kinesiologist and she also works a lot in the area of trauma healing, and that includes the profound bond, how that the profound bond that exists between humans and animals, and how trauma healing can occur when we connect into that beautiful bond. So, the title of that show was Healing Trauma with Companion Animals. And it was just such a, we explored so much around including like the parent child dynamic that can exist between companion animals and their humans. We spoke about the soul contracts between humans and animals. Looking at past experiences of the human and of the pet and how that can show up in life. We spoke about how our energy can impact our companion animals. We spoke about Jacqueline's beautiful relationships with her cats. We obviously, well, not obviously, but being that she is a kinesiologist, we did explore kinesiology and how that can be utilized to assist animals with their healing. We also spoke about flower essences, and so much more, like so much, such a beautiful, beautiful episode. So what did Jacqueline have to say when asked that question? Let's find out.
I feel the hierarchy. So that, yes, there's a lot of hierarchy around humans being above the animals in the food chain,
Yeah.
And because we can just go and kill them whenever we want. We can leave them and abandon them whenever we want. We can mistreat them.
Legally, they're our property.
That's right. We can do what we want with them. And I think that would be nice if that could change, like humans having more respect for animals and their ability to be so intuitive and connected. We could learn a lot from that, and not feeling like we are above them or superior of them. We are of the same. And we are of the same. It's just that they're more tuned in than what we are.
Exactly.
Mostly. And they can teach us so much in connecting. And the hierarchy around that whole I will just come in and shoot you and that's it.
I am human, therefore
I've got a gun, or I've got a this, or I've got a that, and they're helpless. Animals are helpless to that.
Yeah.
And we need more animal warriors out there.
Totally. Well, hopefully this show will inspire more animal warriors. Let's do this, people. Like, here's the call. Are you ready to heed it?
Yeah, here it comes.
Let's do this, people.
Let's do it.
A powerful, powerful answer from Jacqueline. A call out to all of you out there to be animal warriors, to advocate for them, defend them, and to lead by example, right? That is one of the best ways to advocate for anything, is to lead by example. Jacqueline, her main focus when answering this question was around hierarchy. Seeing, humans being, at the top of the food chain, and therefore that allows us to treat animals however we want to treat them, that like they are our property for our benefit, so really calling that out and calling for respect, right? Calling for respect about their intuitive connectedness to energy, to spirit, to everything. And, acknowledging we are not above them. We are not superior. We are the same. And also acknowledging that they come to us as teachers. They have so much wisdom. We have so much to learn from them. Our next guesting season one was Jenny Madison, another friend of mine who just lives half an hour down the road. And Jenny's episode was episode 9, Returning Home with Interspecies Communication. That went live on the 15th of May, 2024. And Jenny not lives, I already said that, Jenny is, she's a seasoned entrepreneur and her work focuses around meditation and cultivating inner calm and higher awareness and intuitive connection with the natural world and the divine in all. She is a spiritual guide, she's a yoga teacher and an interspecies communicator. And so that was another really, really rich conversation where we spoke about, what is interspecies communication? What does this type of communication look like? How can it be experienced? What language do animals speak? How do animals respond to, this kind of communication? Jenny shared a lot about some, of her deepest learnings from the communications that she's had with various animals and the insights that she's gained. And there were some really, really, divine golden nuggets in that episode. And we even came up with a little mantra, which I can't remember now. I'm going to see if I can find it for you. It was about setting an intention, which I'll share with you. I will communicate and receive telepathic communication clearly. And yeah, I will communicate and receive telepathic communication clearly. And, we were talking about how to set that intention for how you would like to communicate with your animal. And, all beings, right? Let's have a listen to what Jenny would change about the human animal relationship.
Hmm. I would suggest for humans to feel more and think less, to attune on a feeling level what is really happening around them, and to watch what comes, watch what happens when you start to open to the animals in that way. Just watch what happens and simply enjoy.
Yeah, I love that. Drop out of the thinking mode into the feeling and see what arises. It's like a little expedition, exploring. Oh my gosh, my words today. Explorative journey into what the feeling world can reveal to you.
And to also remember and learn from our native cultures and ancestors how they revered the natural world and how we can receive intelligent communications, healings, connections, experiences, and deep sharings, just experiencing. We're here to experience this earth together. We're not separate.
Yeah, and there's deep, deep wisdom to be learned from the people who walked this earth before us. Yeah, definitely. And from the nature that exists around us, concurrently with us here. The wisdom is everywhere. So
more being, less doing, more feeling, less thinking.
Love it. Love that mantra. Recite that mantra every day, and I'm sure it will come through. A beautifully deep answer from Jenny, which, I would expect no less. The themes in her answer is just about feeling, opening yourselves up to the world of feeling and tapping into that and, attuning to that and observing, being the observer and observing, particularly observing what happens and what you perceive and learn when you're observing animals and your relationships and your connection with those animals. And also a call to, remember the learnings of the native cultures and our ancestors when it comes to communing with the natural world and receiving healing and sharing and, having that reverence. And again, it's like that connection around we are not separate. Yeah, so I find it really interesting. There's so many common themes in these answers. The next guest that I had on in season 1 was Claire Deal, seer, medical intuitive energy worker, animal communicator. She's been on the show twice. She was just on last week. And the title of that show was Animal Soul Journeys. It was episode 11 and it went live on the 29th of May, 2024. And in that show, it was such a, I say this about everyone, right? It was another really deep, rich show. This was the longest episode so far across the podcast, and also my most popular. This is the one that has been listened to by, the most, right? We spoke a lot about we spoke about so much. We spoke about, when animals transition, when they pass, that it's not the end, that their spirit remains, they remain, they do remain. That was a big part of that conversation. I shared a lot around sessions that I'd had with Claire, with my animals, including my beautiful Lily, who passed in 2020, and all the teachings that can come from that part of that journey, right? We also spoke about, her role as a medical intuitive, and then how that comes into her work when she's working with animals to help pinpoint where there are weaknesses in an animal's health, how that shows up. We also spoke about mirroring, which was also touched on in the episode with Jacqueline, how animals can mirror we spoke about the mirroring of physical ailments. So definitely have a listen to that one if you haven't listened to it yet. And let's now have listen to Claire's answer.
I'm going back to that, meet them where they're at. Yeah, meet them where they're at. We put pressure on our animals, and we put pressure on our children, and we put pressure on other people to be something often that they're not, and they're never going to be. And when we start to meet that soul at that given time where they're at, then we actually get to see who they are and how they are, and in turn get to see and feel and know ourselves as well. And it opens up places that you didn't know you needed until those needs were met, and you're like, oh, wow, there you are. That would be my biggest take, the biggest sharing in that way.
Love it. Love it.
That's all about acceptance, right? Meeting animals where they're at, seeing them for who they are, for how they are, and then through that, knowing them, but also knowing ourselves because of just that bond that we share, the toing and froing of information and the beautiful connections and the reasons why we're here sharing this life together in this moment. Beautiful. One of the reasons I love and recommend Frontier Pets is because they champion a sustainable future for the global pet food industry by working to reduce the pet food industry's over-reliance on factory farming, a cause that is close to my heart. And as you will soon hear as we return to the show, is also something that one of our guests is really passionate about as well. And you know what? They're probably all really passionate about on this topic. So bring it, right? Frontier Pets has made it their mission to choose more ethical ingredients from suppliers engaged in sustainable farming and growing practices for their pet food products. This is pet food with a purpose. With Frontier Pets, you and your pet can change the world. Visit frontierpets.com.au to learn more. And as a natural animal podcast listener, one that I'm very grateful for, you get to enjoy 15% off your first order with the code NaturalAnimal15. Let's get back to the show. So they were the guests for season 1. And then we moved obviously into season 2. There was a bit of a long break between season 1 and 2. And the first guest episode in season 2 was with the renowned pet nutritionist Dr. Ian Billinghurst, the creator often regarded as the father of raw feeding, that is. And his answer was quite surprising to some. I had one person comment on the YouTube version of this episode that they were quite, surprised by his answer, but really like proud and really happy with his answer. So, oh, I jumped ahead, but basically that was episode 14. It was called Nutrition. It's absurdly simple. Because that's something that Ian says. And in that episode, we spoke about, his beginnings and how he came to start recommending raw feeding, and, how he was received by the veterinary community, and, what he still teaches and practices today, and the reasons why he thinks that raw feeding is, the most natural way of feeding our dogs and cats. Obviously talking about the evolution of dogs and cats as species, and looking at what they've eaten for the longest period of time, and what is, species appropriate, what is biologically appropriate. So it was a real good deep dive into pet nutrition, not just raw. And we also spoke about some other things as well. We touched on, I'm just relying on my memory here. We touched on vaccinations, and a bunch of other things as well. So definitely encourage you to listen to that one if you haven't yet. And so let's hear what Ian's answer was.
That humans understand very completely that animals are sentient beings.
Yes.
We understand that, particularly in terms of the way we're not going to stop farming them and eating them, I guess. So
it may happen.
It may, and
probably not in our lifetimes, but
no, maybe it will. But whatever we do, we have to treat them as what they are. The factory farming is beyond cruel.
Yeah.
I mean, even to the point. I mean, the words like slaughterhouse, all of that stuff.
I know. Well, that's why they don't really call them. We're going to slaughter. We're going to process the animals.
Yeah, I know. It's just
yeah,
just horrible. It is just horrible. And as I get older, I get more upset by that. And even though I do eat meat and all that sort of stuff, if we could just change the way people think and understand that these animals they think, they feel, they have emotions. They're like us.
Yep. They really are.
Yeah.
Cat, dog, cow, chicken, rabbit, pig, human.
Yeah. We all evolved together, and we are all on this planet together. We've evolved to have a very dominant position on the planet. I don't know whether we'll always retain it because we're not so good. We're not nice animals a lot of the time.
I don't think nature will allow the human species to retain that dominance, because if she was to allow that, we would wipe ourselves. She may allow it so that Earth has the chance to regenerate and start over.
That's exactly right.
Never underestimate the power of nature.
So that would be my wish, that we, just as a race, and I guess we need to also be kind to that other animal that we know very well, the humans, because we're so unkind to each other.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Unkindness breeds more unkindness, whether, it doesn't matter what form the being takes, plant, animal, human.
And I know we're all human and we're all guilty of it, myself included, but we have to do better. Yeah.
A beautiful, beautiful wish from Ian Billinghurst. Steals my heart, that answer, right? Like, understanding that animals are sentient, that they think and feel and they have emotions just like we do, right? What did he say? They are like us. And someone else said that too. We are the same, right? Are you picking up on the consistent themes with these answers, with these beautiful animal loving warriors that I have been so privileged to have on my show and to bring into your worlds, into your ears, into your eyes? And, you know, he says, we all evolved together, right? But he also speaks about this dominance, this superiority. That's come up as well. Like Jacqueline mentioned that, this superiority complex that humans have, you know. And he questions, will we retain that? You know, and he also brings up that, you know, we're not nice animals, and also calls for that kindness to extend not just between human and animal, but between human and human. And so as we're, you know, getting very, 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 very close to the new year, very, very close to 2025, these are beautiful dreams and wishes, but they can also, they don't have to stay as dreams and wishes. They can become reality. And so I ask you, how can you bring this into your 2025? Because when you bring this into your life, right, into your community, and when I bring this into my life and into my community, that expands and expands and expands, and the reach increases. And then we start to see this increase in this, in the understanding of animals and the respect for them and the honoring of them and the acknowledgement that we are the same, that we are all thinking, feeling, sentient beings. And as he says, we have to do better. My next guest was Ondine Sherman, the co-founder and managing director of Voiceless, the Animal Protection Institute. And yes, another connection from my Voiceless days. And Ondine, you know, she's a lifelong animal advocate. She is so dedicated to the cause of animal protection ever since she was a little girl, and she started Voiceless with her father, Brian Sherman. And they, you know, through that, they have created a legacy, right? And, you know, like all my guest shows, it was a big one, you know. There's always so much to talk about, right? These people have so many golden nuggets to share and so much wisdom to share. And, you know, we tapped into a lot of, you know, what is Voiceless and the background and how she built it with her father. And, you know, what is Ondine perceived to be some of the biggest issues when it comes to animals and protecting them. You know, we spoke about their focus on the commercial killing of kangaroos, but we also spoke about all the projects that they do, you know, their animal cruelty index and their collaborations and the grants program and the way that they are assisting other animal advocates to do their work, to shine a light on animals and helping the animals, and basically, you know, through that, improving the lives of animals. And obviously another big focus with Voiceless is, you know, has been the law and bringing animal law to Australia. So really, and also her venture into young adult fiction and the beautiful stories that she's written for children, or for young adults that are all, you know, that have that message around, you know, the just amazingness of animals and how we can, you know, acknowledge and revere them because, you know, they deserve that. So what was Ondine's answer to if there was one thing she could change about the human-animal relationship?
In Western society today, our relationship is based on such flawed ideas and philosophies of animals as property, animals as objects, humans as having the right to do basically whatever we want to animals for the sake of profit and our enjoyment and entertainment. So I guess fundamentally I would change that relationship and elevate animals So it's more egalitarian, and we're seeing them as family and co-beings on earth with us, and respecting them for their unique abilities and capabilities, and the beauty that they bring to our planet and our lives. So yeah, it would be a deep shift in our perceptions.
It would, but we can dream, and dreams can come true. So
yes.
more of us that dream it will dream it into reality, right?
Yeah, a utopian future.
Exactly.
I think so.
So let's do it, guys. Let's dream this utopia into being, this world where we elevate animals to equal status, which is the status that they deserve. And for many of us, it is the status that they already have. But for many, it's not that way, right? Seeing them as family, acknowledging how unique they are, the beauty that they bring to our planet and our lives, right? Moving away from these concepts and beliefs that they are property, that they are objects, and we can do whatever we want to them, right? Whether it's, for profit, for enjoyment, or entertainment. So, yeah, beautiful, beautiful answer. And that was episode 16 of the podcast, and it went live on the 30th of October 2024. It was called Voiceless, Advocating for Animal Rights. The next guest that I had on my show was Scott Alexander King. And the title of that episode was Nature's Teachers, How Animal Symbolism Guides and Heals. That was episode 18, and it went live on the 13th of November. Unfortunately, I forgot to ask Scott the question. And I don't have an answer from him. So there we have it. I'm sure his answer would be something to do with acknowledging the role that animals play as teachers, as in, being bringers of wisdom, and how when we tap into that wisdom, we can receive guidance and we can heal. I don't know if he would answer that, but that is the answer that I expected that he would give. That was another beautiful episode. And, he did like a feather demonstration, what the symbolism and feathers. We spoke about his background and how he came to do this work and how he came to learn to understand the messages that animals bring us. And it's like, it's something that I utilize a lot, and I've got, books of his. And so definitely, if you want to learn more about the symbolism and the messages that animals give us and how we can tap into that wisdom, definitely go and have a listen to that episode if you haven't already. And then after that, I did it again. I forgot to ask the next guest the question, but I do have an answer from him. That was Jed Goodfellow. And that show was Fighting for Better Animal Welfare in Australia. It was episode 20, and it went live on the 27th of November. So Jed is one of the founders and one of the leaders of the Australian Alliance for Animals. And in that show, we spoke about, his 20 years plus experience in animal welfare law, policy and advocacy, and how, the work that he does now with the Australian Alliance for Animals, how they bring a whole lot of brilliant animal organizations together, and they, have campaigns to end things like live export and the use of battery cages. They are helping to lead animal protection organizations and represent their supporters, and through these programs for like crucial legislative reforms, holding decision makers to account, creating an independent animal welfare policy system. And so it's all about really changing like the underlying framework that sets up this world where animals are treated as less than. You know, we do live in a world where there's laws and policies, and those laws and policies do need to change. We need to change the mindsets of the individuals, of the people, but then the laws and policies need to change at the same time. Now, as I mentioned, I did not ask Jed the question, but I asked him afterwards. And the answer that he shared to me was, I would change our speciesist attitudes to ensure we treat animals in ways that reflect their sentience and intrinsic value, not simply their utility to us. So we've got, you know, those common themes are cropping up again, clearing away these attitudes that we're better than, that animals are our property, that animals are our objects for us to do with whatever we please, right? Whether it's for money, entertainment, or what have you. Treating animals, acknowledging animals that they are sentient, that they do have intrinsic value individually and as a species. So really treating the animals in ways that reflect that, right? And doing away with this whole, you know, utility piece, like they're not ours to do with whatever we want. So yeah, constant theme, right, throughout these answers and the wisdom that the guests are sharing. And maybe you've got something similar as well. And my final guest, who it's her second time on the show, Claire Deal, came back last week, episode 23. That went live on the 18th of December, 2024. And the title of that was Beyond Words, How Claire's Senses Help You Understand Your Pet's Needs. And in that show, we dive deep into clairsenses, clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, clairgustance, all the clairs that we are at least aware of in this moment, right? And how working out what our dominant clairs are and what our animals' dominant clairs are to aid the way that we communicate and to deepen our bond. So I did ask Claire the question again, what would she change about the human animal relationship? And she had a slightly different answer.
It's such a big question.
I know, that's why I was like, I'll ask it again. It could be completely different.
In this particular moment, it's acceptance of yourself and acceptance of them as they are and you are. Because acceptance is the only way that there's a sense of being present to who we are, how we are, and who they are and how they are, rather than determining that you're not enough or you need to be fixed, or they're not enough and they need to be fixed. You're meeting each other as equals, and it really creates this space for, I call it, I haven't phrased this term, but I've been speaking about it a lot lately, really connecting you back to the beginner's mind. Wiping the slate clean. And, we think we know someone because we've known them for 2 years, 20 years, 30 years, same when it comes to animals. And actually we're meeting a new version of ourselves and them at any given moment. And so keeping that beginner's mind and accepting who and what is before you at any given moment, inclusive of yourself, really creates bountiful amount of opportunities for connection and learning and unlearning and so on. So
yeah. Love it. Acceptance, right? Accepting who you are, accepting who others are, accepting who your animals are, and being present. Who are you in this moment? Who is your animal in this moment? Who is your husband in this moment? Who is your mother in this moment? Who is your friend in this moment? Who is that person at the shop serving you in this moment? Doing away with those judgments and those preconceptions and opening yourself up and being present to whichever being is around you, to who they are in this moment. Deep, right? Again, we've got the theme of seeing others, seeing animals as equal beings, right? Not trying to fix them, not trying to fix us, not trying to fix that person, right? And approaching life and approaching everyone, all beings, with what Claire calls the beginner's mind, right? Not what's gone on before, of what they've said before, or what they've done before, or how they've acted before, but coming to every moment as though it is new. And I'm feeling some stuff going on in the background for me right now, and really going, yeah, I could probably do this a bit better, right? You know, can you do this a bit better? Can you really let go of everything that's gone on before, no matter whether it's an animal or a human, and really see that being in a new light? See them as they are now in this moment. And as Claire says, because it gives an opportunity for more connection, for more learning, and for unlearning, right? All the programs and the thoughts and ideas that we have, the preconceptions that we have, it's an opportunity to unlearn all of that, because that actually may not be helpful and it may not be accurate. So now it's my turn. I don't know if I can top those. Like, they're pretty special. I'm gonna have to have a think about it. Okay, I've had a think. I've written down some keywords. And I think for me, I'm going to be cheeky. It's not one thing, but a lot of the guests were the same. They didn't just say one thing. Some were very, very, very good like that. But these are my keywords that I wrote down: sentience, accepting, seeing, open, enjoying. And let me flesh that out. So first of all, yes, of course, sentience. Acknowledging that animals are sentient, that they do feel, because I think that is the underlying basis for so many problems in terms of the way animals are treated. It's a complete disregard that they feel, pain, that they feel sadness, that they feel loneliness, that they feel fear, that they feel shame, that they feel joy, that they feel love, that they feel peace. Acknowledging that. If everyone, and that's probably, I could finish it there. I could finish the answer to that question, the one thing I would change there. Because like I said, I think if all of us had that belief, that understanding, that the human animal relationship would change in every respect for the better, right? It's really that simple. And then I think the other things flow on from that, right? Accepting, accepting who they are as an individual. Every individual life matters because they are sentient, right? I'm going to keep bringing it back to that word. Seeing animals for who they are, for their feelings, right? And honoring that, not seeing them for what we want to see or how we want to see or our expectations of them, seeing them for who they are, honoring, accepting that, being open to who they are, being open that one day they're this way, tomorrow they're another way, right? Just opening ourselves up to the joyful world, the amazing world, the deep, rich world of animals, and finally enjoying that, enjoying every moment that we have with our animals, because they are not here in physical form forever. A client said to me today that, I can't remember, but it was something along those lines of, he's fully aware that, his dog is not going to be with him forever, and how I don't know if he used this word, but unfair or something, that we live so much longer than they do. And this is true. you know, this is our choice. We chose this. We chose this human body. And the human body does have that potential to live a really long time in comparison to cats and dogs. This is the truth. This is our reality. But this was a choice that we made. But I think getting comfort, if whether, if you have, through the episodes, if you listen to all the episodes, you will always see that consistent theme coming through, right? Of the spiritual essence of animals and our connection. And if you're able to sit with that, deeply sit with that and feel into that, then perhaps you will also start to feel, if you don't feel it already, that yes, they're physically here for a short time, but we don't lose them. We still have the ability to connect in with them, to share our lives with them. It's just different. And if you haven't, there's a number of episodes throughout the podcast that you could listen to go deeper into that, animal soul journeys, the one last week with, on the clear senses, the one with Jenny on interspecies communication, the one with Jacqueline, the trauma healing with animals, even Ian Billinghurst's, with his answer to the question, Scott Alexander King's, like Shaffer's, it's all in there, right? So it's a wonderful privilege to share our lives with animals, not just our companion animals, but all of the animals that exist, right? And, if you don't get to see them in your life, to turn on the TV, to watch the documentaries, to get on YouTube, you can even listen to music tracks of animal sounds. There are so many ways that you can connect into the essence and to the energy of animals and to receive their healing and to receive their wisdom. And I invite you all to do that. So now I turn it over to you. If there was one thing you could change about the human-animal relationship, what would that be? I invite you to think about it or not think about it. Just write down now the first thing that comes into your head, or you might do what I did and write keywords and then speak into that. And it doesn't have to be one thing. But you may find, like I did, that your first word is like the core focus, and everything stems from that. So really it is one thing, right? So, and then I would love to hear your answers. And maybe I'll do a show where I share my audience's answers. Maybe I'll do that at the end of season 3 of the podcast. So how can you send your answers to me? Email ruth@ruthhatton.com, Instagram ruth.animalnaturopath. You can fill out the feedback form on my website with your answer. You don't have to answer all the other questions, just put that in there. But if you want to also give suggestions for topics or for guests for season 3, put that in there. You can also put that in your email or your DM as well. But I would love, if you're on Facebook, I am on Facebook, so you can send me a message via Facebook as well. But I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know what is the thing that you would change about the human-animal relationship. And then who knows, maybe one day I may write a book on this topic and share all of my guests' answers and all of your answers as well. That would make me really, really happy. And then that could be like I can't think of the word, but that could be like a modus operandi, or I don't know. I'm sure you'll get my gist, a codex or something that we can all like live by, right? So please do that. Do that now before you forget. You're probably on holidays if you're listening to this in the moment when it goes live. So yeah, love to hear from you. And I will also take this moment as I'm wrapping up to say some thank yous. Thank you to you, my listener, my audience. Thank you so much. Thank you to me, because the show would not exist without me, right? Thank you to my beautiful guests. Like, this show would not exist without you. I mean, it would exist, but it would not be the same. I do not have all of the wisdom and all the knowledge around animals, so I need my guests They bring so much richness to the show. So thank you so much to all of my beautiful guests. I'm literally going to name all of you one by one because you deserve that individual accreditation. Shatha Hamadi, Mark Beckoff, Jacqueline Lee, Jenny Madison, Claire Deal ×2. Oh, my face is hurting from smiling. Ian Billinghurst, Ondine Sherman, Scott Alexander King, Jed Goodfellow. Thank you to each and every one of you for making season 1 and 2 the magic that it has been. Thank you to the sponsor. I had a sponsor for season 2, the amazing Frontier Pets. Thank you so much for putting your faith in this show. I cannot express my gratitude to you enough. Thank you so much. If you haven't checked out Frontier Pets yet, please do so. Their main portal is their website, frontierpets.com.au. And if you want to try out some of their food over the holiday season for your cats and dogs, you get a special discount with the code NaturalAnimal15. That will give you 15% off all of their foods and their meals and their freeze-dried foods and their boosters, their brand new booster range, which is super exciting. So thank you to my sponsor. Thank you to the technology. You know, a lot of people diss technology, but, you know, I'm like, thank goodness for the technology, right? Thanks you for what are the tech I use? I use Zoom to record these solo episodes and guest shows. I edit them in iMovie. So thank you to iMovie. Thank you to Apple. Thank you for Rode, for my beautiful podcaster microphone. Thank you to the maker of my ring light that I use to, you know, brighten the light up in here. Thank you to my beautiful, beautiful cats who, you know, if you've ever watched an episode on YouTube, you've been able to see their beauty and their grace and their perfection. Thank you, Max and Elfie. Thank you to Lily in spirit. She is always helping and guiding me. Thank you to all of my guides in spirit and in human form. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And is there anyone I've left off? I don't think so. I'm getting all teary. If you're listening, you won't see my eyes starting to water up. But if you're watching on YouTube, you'll get to see, you may see that my eyes are watering up. So it's been a blessing. It's been a journey. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I can't wait to bring season 3 to you. I've done no recordings of any of the shows, so I have no idea what I'm going to bring to you in season 3, except for one thing. I've got at least one guest in mind. I would like to bring Ian back. So yes, please let me know. Please help me out here. Who would you like on the show? Who do you love that you think would fit into the theme of this show, which is about respecting, loving, understanding all animals, companion, farm, and wild. So put your thinking cap on and hit me up. Let me know who you'd like to join us in season 3. So I'm going to stop now. I'm going to stop because I need to edit this and get it ready so this can go live and you can actually, you know, enjoy this episode. So thank you again. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your holiday festive season. If you are still on holidays when you're listening to this, if it's still the festive season, enjoy bringing in the new year. If you're a believer in the calendar year, or if you're a believer in the astro year, that's not coming until March. If you're a believer in the Chinese New Year, that's not coming till February. So whenever you celebrate the new year, I celebrate all 3 because hell, why not? Why not? On that note, I will see you. Oh, and season 3 will be, my plan is it will start in February 2025. So if there's any episodes that you've missed out, you've got plenty of time to catch up. I definitely encourage you to tune into every one because there is wisdom and gold in every single one. Thanks, guys. See you next year.